Chapter webinar. I'll go it again after recording. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today ICF Bangkok Chapter webinar. Does human-centric AI coaching transform the professions? My name is Sorat Amatayakun, the director of DEIB, and I'm honored to be your host for tonight. And thank you all for joining us. At ICF Bangkok, our mission is to inspire, transform, and thrive together as a coaching community. This evening, we'll explore how AI and coaching intersect and what it means for our profession moving forward. We are delighted to have with us Dr. Matt Barney, PhD. Dr. Matt is an organizational psychologist and serial entrepreneur. He is the founder of TrueMind.ai and XLNC, leading innovation in trustworthy AI coaching at the international coaching standards. For over 30 years in his career, he has contributed groundbreaking work across multinational, authored numerous books and articles, and received multiple international awards, which our moderator will share more about his impressive journey shortly. Just before we begin, a quick note on the question on Q&A. Dr. Matt is kind enough for all of us. If we were to have question along the way, we can either raise the hand and he will giving you the answer and interact with you, or if you feel more comfortable to leave the question in our chat box, we will collecting them in orderly and give it to him during the Q&A session in the end. And to guide us through this exciting conversation, we are pleased to have with us Arne Blom, our very own Director of Memberships, as our moderator. Arne is an experienced coach, trainer, and thought leader who's bring deep expertise in leadership and coaching practice. So Arne, it's my pleasure to hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, Coach Leanne, and hello everyone. We're very excited to have this webinar tonight because I think it's a topic that everyone is talking about right now. Obviously, how will AI impact the coaching profession? And I think Dr. Matt will share some surprising views, Matt, if I can say it that way. And he told me before we open here that he would love to have a proper interaction. When I say proper, I mean play ping pong almost with you. And we have a relatively small audience tonight. So I think it's possible, as Coach Leanne just said, don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask a question, either if it's something you don't understand, or if you think you might disagree with what's being said. Matt would love to be challenged, he said. So I'm not me inventing it; it's him saying so. And if you're uncomfortable with unmuting yourself, as Coach Leanne just said, just put a question in the chat. Okay. So don't hesitate to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and interrupt what's being said if you have a question. Don't be afraid to interrupt. Okay. I'm not going to, Matt. Not going to read much more about your bio that that Coach Leanne just mentioned. Maybe just go back to a couple of things. You say here in your bio that you with TrueMind.ai you create trustworthy AI assessments. So that's something I hope, assessments and coaching. So that's something I'm sure you're going to talk about, and certainly many of us are curious to discover or to learn more about. And then we have the companies you founded like Excellency, and the work you did with the ICF. Maybe that's also something that's coming up in what you're going to present. And basically your experience, right? Working 30 years with companies like AT&T, Motorola, or Merck, or Infosys. These are huge groups. And what did they what did you work with them on in terms of, behavioral science? And then I see you have developed 4 patents. What are they? I don't know if that is relevant to what we're talking about, but I'm just curious. Anyway, so to the audience, we have 3 main topics. So one is to understand how AI can transform um, our business, our coaching business, and our clients' outcomes. The second one is how AI um, make client and coach progress transparent, both during the coaching sessions and in between them. And the third point is to appreciate how ICF coaching, the way it's defined today, um, can be broadened both psychologically and technologically with AI. So a lot of super interesting topics, and just now handing the mic to you, Matt, and welcome to ICF Bangkok.
Guten Morgen, gute Nacht, good Abend. Thank you. I didn't expect to have such a global crowd. I was practicing my Thai for this talk because I haven't been. Last time I worked in Bangkok was my first patent in 1995, so it's been a long time. But I have to sometimes remind people when I give talks like this that I'm a psychologist first and a technologist second, even though I'm going to talk about both together. And so, Arnie, some of your questions to me about what I did in those other companies and the patents, they're absolutely related to this talk because all of my other patents in the 90s and the early 2000s are all what's called rules-based AI. So I am not new to AI. In fact, back in graduate school, the kind of AI I talk about today was called neural nets, and the current AI work I do. And it's just evolved so far. But fundamentally, I'm coming at this with the human-centric approach, and I've worked for many years with ICF. I was centrally involved in the psychometrics for a master certified coach, the team coaching competencies. 4 years ago, some of you may not know because it was just released, but 4 years ago we finished the AI coaching standards, the framework and standards that were just released really recently. And I'm currently one of the Asia Pacific people for the AI Coaching Coalition for ICF. And I still work very closely with all the senior folks in ICF Global. I just happen to be in the Philippines, so that's why I'm representing ICF in AI for the region. So the 3 objectives, I'm going to start out and I'll come back to these with both how this psychology and technology is broadening, and then I'm going to highlight the key ways in which not only the content of coaching is going to change, your skills need to change, but also, and I mean that in a pure psychology sense, before I even talk about the technology, but how AI is already complementing high touch coaching. And for many years, I would give talks like this about AI and coaching. This is my second AI company. My first one was called LeaderAmp. That's where I won a bunch of my AI awards. I couldn't finish some of that AI back in 2018 when I won a few awards for it. That basically is happening now with the newer AI. And so it's important that you understand that how your skill sets will change, even if you're not all that into technology, and then how AI can take that to a next level. And frankly, not just the client outcomes, but frankly, your coaching business. So those are the 3 things I hope to accomplish with you. And again, I want to make this interactive. I know most ICF coaches do some amount, if not all, of executive or leadership coaching. How many of you are primarily doing leader development in your coaching? Can I just see a show of hands? I can't see everybody's hands. Let's see if I can change my camera view. Let's see if I see more of you. Okay, many of you. Okay, great. Well, you're in good hands. You can see the market for leader development is going to really more than double. In I dropped the year there. I think the end year is like 2032, 10% compound aggregate growth. So there's a good amount of growth there, but the buyers of coaching are not completely convinced that coaching sticks, that coaching is permanent. Only 36% of current HR people that control coaching budgets at the corporate level feel that they know people like coaching. In fact, if you look at BetterUp and Ezra, back in 2013, when I founded my last company, they basically pioneered tech-powered discount coaching, where you sell seats and volumes, and they're the ones that have kind of ratcheted down the price points. But that was never sold to actually produce ROI. BetterUp and Ezra in the beginning was sold only as coaching as a benefit, not coaching to improve performance or coaching to de-risk succession or coaching to solve some business problem. And that ROI, even though the buyer isn't actually calculating return on investment, most of them wanted to have some kind of sense of, was the investment worth it? And so that's the number one thing in coaching that I'm hearing is the biggest leader development challenge that the buyer's experiencing. I'd love to hear from you because I don't want this to be a one-way street. Feel free to take yourself off mic or type in the chat. What are your biggest leader development challenges with your clients right now? Is it demonstrating impact? Is that among them? Or is it something else?
Don't hesitate to unmute yourself if you want to just chime in or write in the chat box.
And Arne, how about you? What is impact and demonstrating impact, is that up there?
I think what you said is something I also see and witness in larger corporations where coaching is still viewed as, well, first of all, it's still viewed as something to correct the course when they see it necessary.
That's
Okay?
right.
And that's for the higher levels of management. And then for the mid-management or sometimes even frontline managers, it's more as a perk, as you just said.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So I think we're still far away, and that's also why I think that coaching is going to develop very fast, especially in the AI era, because I think focus on human relationships will increase and not decrease.
That's right.
And that people will end up understanding, I hope, that coaching is a way to improve whatever your level is. Even if you're very good, you can be a little bit better with
That's
coaching.
exactly right. No, and that's a perfect segue. That how do you know if you get a little bit better is usually how coaches demonstrate. They do some kind of baseline and then they show, at the end, ideally, did the person get better? But the client still, first of all, not every coach uses these either before, during, or after. Or if they do them, they often do them before, but maybe not after. And even if they do them and they were all favorable, there's still some question marks on whether that sticks, whether it's permanent. But to your point, Arne, I'm absolutely convinced this is so important because, frankly, there's really no other intervention. There's no investment a company or an individual can make other than coaching for the highest levels of proficiency. And we'll talk about that in detail later. But this is an even faster growing market for good reason, because who wouldn't want to know, where am I? Therefore, what should my coaching goal be? And am I getting better? Am I on track with my career trajectory? And assessment is the way you can tell. So it's growing fast, but it's not used as much as it should. And when it's used, so some of you know the Hogan Personality Inventory. Robert Hogan is one of my professors in grad school. My PhD is from University of Tulsa, where he was one of my professors. And people like the Hogan, but then they file it. And what do you do with an assessment of something that's by definition very, very stable when you can't change it very much? And it's very imprecise. He has a 1920s era psychometric model with a 1980s era framework for personality. Neither are modern. And so you can only get about 4 levels of certainty with his. The highest stakes physician credentialing test, you can only get about 9. And I'll show you something that's exponentially better than that. But a lot of those assessments are fairly generic. They're not so tailored to your client the way you normally would be. And so that's one of the reasons they're not used so much. But AI is being used for feedback. How many of you have tried to give a transcript or you've seen a Zoom transcript on some kind of coaching session you've done? Has anybody? See a show of hands? So some of you have tried that. And some of that can be useful for some general gist of what happened, but it can't really tell you where was the client before, during, or after. There's no measurement component to those feedbacks. So they're not so precise. And we all know, famously, AI can be biased. These are the kind of famous ones, but frankly, these are pretty rare with the modern LLMs. They're not impossible. They do happen. What's 100% of the time happening with even the most current GPT-5, the best AI out there, is they're always too severe, too lenient in all of my studies, without exception. And so if you want to use an AI to help you gauge your client, you have to remove that bias to be effective. Now, for many, many years, I would give a talk like I'm giving to you now, and I would say to coaches, don't worry, high-tech, high-touch coaching is where the future is, that we humans only feel obligations to each other. We're a social species. Your job is really, really secure. And I still feel that's 90% true, but just this year, I had to back off my 100% and go to 90% because of the study I'll tell you about here. How many of you heard about Dartmouth doing a study with Therabot? Anybody hear about this study? It's a true proper experiment. So they randomly assigned real patients to 3 conditions, and they basically delayed treatment for the ones that didn't get picked first. So everybody got treatment, but they got true causal inference. So you can really be sure that the AI is what's caused the benefit. They had 3 serious conditions: depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. And in each case, you'll see here on the screen, this is depression. Blue is the after, and red is the before. And you want the symptoms to be reduced. So you'd like the distributions to be on the left side of the screen. The first set of distributions are right after using Therabot AI coaching or AI therapy, and the right one is long, long after. And notice that not only did the general distribution get better, but it was sustained over time. And the same pattern was for anxiety and chronic eating disorders. Now, many of my clinical psychology friends that work in executive coaching often tell me that they feel like a lot of the coaching, at least for stuff like neuroticism or anxiety, is like therapy light. And so I know that there's admonitions about thinking about therapy, but if these are so much more difficult to change than a motivated executive doesn't have psychopathology, they don't have some malady, if AI can have this kind of effect, I'm not super surprised, but it's impressive. But this didn't blow me away. This didn't move me to say, to change my tune for the first time in many years about the future of coaching. What changed me was the next 2 slides I'm going to show you. This one really surprised me, that the working alliance. So the working alliance is, to what degree are you and the client feeling like this is a great relationship? And you can see these are scores. The colored boxes are 50% of the data, and 25% of the data is above and below. So most of these are pretty favorable, very, very similar to human in terms of the relationship. And the one that really blew me away is the last one. This is how much patients liked it. So not just the first bunch are all about the user interface and the tech. The one that's the least certain is this just like a real therapist, but it's pretty good. And they would use it on their own, and overall they're satisfied. So this is a pattern that's shockingly good. I didn't expect this. I expected people to prefer a human therapist. And so the researchers speculated that the convenience factors were part of it. But notice how narrow these are. And this is part of my answer to why I'm not a larger percent than 10%, that I'm convinced these kind of narrow chatbots, if focused in a specific domain, can make a big difference. So for those of you that are ACCs, I think there's a real risk to you for these, because these are going to be really inexpensive. They're not hard to make anymore. They're generally pretty good. They may not have all the quality controls. They may not have all the things you can do, but there's things you coaches can do that this AI won't do. Many clients have different goals. These are super narrow. Many of your clients' goals would be much broader. Many clients want the human-to-human relationship. And these bots are generally not built by academics like Dartmouth that are very scientific. They're generally built by technicians who don't understand human psychology. So those are all opportunities for human coaches, especially at the C-suite. Those of you that work with senior leaders, there's no way they're just going to swap out your coaching for these kind of chatbots. But before I started my last AI company, for 5 years, I ran the Infosys Leadership Institute in India. And so I'm acutely aware that markets like India are hyper cost focused, and that will be a big market for those AI chatbots. And those Indians or people that are ACC that are working at the margins, I think they are at risk. I think the rest of coaches are just fine, if and only if they actually show better impact. And I think there's a bunch of reasons to say human AI combination will show better impact for a bunch of reasons we'll get into. But that also means developing better skills. because some of the sophisticated AI, the chatbots can do those things very, very well, but in a very, very narrow way. And the generic ICF competencies, I'll show you in a moment, are going to change in a radically different way. There's a study that I've done with Joel DiGirolamo, who's the global head of ICF coaching science. And I'm going to show you some early glimpses of that hint at the kinds of skills you coaches need to continue to differentiate yourselves to complement the AI coaching, not be replaced by it. And part of that is making sure you know where your client is so you don't coach them to do activities that are developmental that are too easy or too hard for them. I sometimes call this the Goldilocks zone, which is, after Goldilocks, the ports, it was too hot, too cold, just right. But it comes out of Russian psychology, a Vygotsky zone of proximal development. It's kind of silly to give people things that are too easy they've mastered. It's also not useful to give them things that are too hard. But that means you need a better gauge of where are they to be able to focus your coaching and frankly praise them when they get a baby step better. And so
Matt, sorry to interrupt.
You're good. Go ahead.
We can feel and hear the passion. It's super interesting. Since we have a very international audience, including people from here and in the region, do you mind slowing down slightly?
Sure. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
We may go over a little bit if I go too slow and we get a lot of dialogue. But thank you for the feedback. I will
Don't worry.
Going slower. And feel free to interrupt me again if I'm still going too fast. So again, how do you keep your careers and accelerate them, frankly, with better outcomes for clients? It's going to be a combination of better skills and using these AI things in a way that the AI only can't do without you, because the AI can only work on what you give it. As opposed to your human coaching, you have all kinds of context about the world around us, the news you've read, maybe nonverbal behaviors that a lot of the AI won't see, video and audio. Eventually it will, but the multimodal is quite new. And so your humanity plus better skills and focus can give you differentiation. You're also a lot more proactive and strategic. Frankly, back to Infosys. When I led the Infosys Leadership Institute, I positioned coaches like investment bankers. They only were investments for leaders that were serious about their careers, proactively to grow successors. It wasn't reactive, Arne, the way you were talking about. It was purely developmental because we figured it's going to be many years before you grow a CEO. And so that proactivity is something chatbots can't do because they're only going to do something that you give them. And so think about those of you that coach CEOs, CTOs, CHROs. They don't want just one thing from you usually. They usually want more than one thing. And because their world changes. Although they may have brought you in for development, they sometimes want a sounding board. Think of your coaching right when COVID happened. I'm sure a lot of your coaching was disrupted, like most coaches around the world, and they didn't necessarily need what they originally brought you in. They needed some other support than that. And so that's kind of, I'm hoping that helps you understand there's a huge opportunity because coaching is about the only thing. There's a huge amount of money that's going to continue to go into leader development. And those coaches that grow their skills and that use this technology can really afford transformation for their clients and therefore their organizations. And part of that's because post-COVID, Zoom is common everywhere I give these talks around the world. Is that true in Thailand? And are many clients wanting still to do things through Zoom, or is a lot of coaching going back to one-on-one in person?
Audience, any feedback from you?
Yeah, generally, most of the coaches actually prefer face-to-face, but because of time constraint, flexibility of time, they have to go with the virtual.
Right. And is it fair that in my experience around the world pre-COVID, almost everyone would rather not do telecoaching of any kind. They'd rather do it in person. Now there's more and more trends there. So using Zoom is part of the benefit of using those Zoom transcripts and Zoom videos is part of what I'll share with you is the opportunity for you. The newest kinds of assessments are not just computer-based. They're neither are they computer adaptive. Computer adaptive are shorter and more precise. So unlike the Hogan, they tend to have 9 levels of certainty, but you don't have too many in coaching. A lot of people are using the AI for summaries and feedback, but some, like some of you may know Coach Hub, they have something called AI Me, for a digital twin chatbot. So some coaches are trying to clone themselves, not to replace themselves, but to have either a cheaper option for people that work for the client, or to make a flight simulator basically in between coaching sessions with your own style, that you can basically monitor and then see how they did with the simulated version of like a role play, for example, before your next session. How many of you are familiar with Ovida? Any of you using Ovida now? This is it's a European platform for coaching, and it has they have pre-AI and not so scientific measures of things like sentiment or emotions. They don't really have measurement of the very dimensions or competencies your clients are trying to grow. So they can't really focus feedback the way I'm recommending. But the new study that's coming out later this year that Arne, you were asking about earlier, is what I really want to move into. If you buy the argument that clients really want impact, and assessment is part of that way, and part of the way for coaches like all of you to go beyond Therabot and the threat of cheaper, very focused AI is this new paradigm, I'm convinced. Now, this study, Joel asked me to do with them to basically look at all the non-ICF coaching and compare it with ICF coaching. So we looked at sports psychologists. We looked
Matt,
at
can you explain who Joel is? Because I don't know if
Joel,
everyone knows him.
I did a moment ago, but Joel DiGirolamo is the global head of science for International Coaching Federation. So all the scientific work for ICF goes through him. And so I did this paper with him, and he's the one finishing it. In fact, I just bugged him today about when is it going to come out, because we finished it a long time ago, like 2 years ago, and it's not out yet. But part of the reason he's being very careful with it is because you'll see it's extremely disruptive to even MCCs are going to have to reskill themselves with this new paradigm. So Joel had me look at the Lean Six Sigma types of coaching that I used to lead when I was at Motorola, agile coaching, sales coaching, cross-cultural coaching. So some of you in Thailand may be dealing with expat coaching for cross-cultural types of stuff, health coaching, and the sports coaching. And so in the next slide, I'll show you, this is kind of where things do and do not overlap. So in yellow are overlaps with ICF coaching. And you can see there are many, many areas that do not overlap with ICF coaching. And ICF is really the only one that doesn't overlap with many of the others. And so things like, for example, my favorite example is persuasion and influence. All of them except ICF encourage this as long as it's related to the client's goal. And frankly, even asking questions. If you ask a really provocative question, you're influencing their cognitions. It's called target shooting in cognitive psychology. And even that is persuasive, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I was telling Arne, I was shocked that some years ago when I was doing the Master Certified Coach certification, psychometrics, I had very senior MCCs tell me that I'm triggering them when I teach them basic things about persuasion because I thought persuasion was unethical, not realizing that as long as it's related to client goals, and frankly, the questions they ask are all persuasive, clients should be practicing in between sessions. So this framework caused Joel and I to step back, and he shared this with Magda, the global CEO of ICF, all the major stakeholders there. And what we're recommending in the paper is something like our colleagues in medicine, law, or engineering have adopted. So there's a core to what coaching is. There's a core to what engineering is, law, medicine. It's not you're a physician, you're a lawyer, an engineer, but in medicine, we don't pretend like pediatricians that deal with babies are identical in skills to the neurologists. In law, we don't pretend like the family lawyers are the same as the corporate. In engineering, I have two boys, one mechanical engineer at Apple, one in college. Mechanical they're just as much engineers as the chemical or electrical, but it's a different subspecialty. This is the idea that there's a core to coaching and subspecialties. There are many different domains of leadership that, frankly, most MCCs don't know about, and they absolutely should. And this is one of those ways that I think inoculates coaches from very, very hyper-specialized AI that's cheap, but doesn't have context, can't be proactive, and won't have the breadth that human coaches have. Let me pause here. Is this making sense? Questions about this kind of, I'm not saying you coaches should become doctors, lawyers, or engineers. I'm saying that framework, I think, makes some sense for coaching, that health coaches have special skills that leadership coaches don't need, sports coaches, but there's still a core to what coaching is. How does that resonate with you? What do you love or hate about that? Feel free to disagree with me or say you dislike the model if you have a different point of view.
Maybe I wanted to add my thoughts on this. I totally agree, and the previous graph really made sense. And also, I've noticed that when I'm trying to explain or maybe market myself, sometimes people have a different understanding of what coaching is because of they have heard about it in sports or in fitness or other place, and that's why it's kind of a bit different to actually show them, make them understand what type of coaching I offer. So I see it actually as a challenge. One way could be that I specialize and more describe what is my sphere, but it's kind of the challenge and the problem and all in once.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Matt, we have also someone asking if specialty coaching, the way you presented it now, is the same as having a niche.
It is, and I would argue that most coaches have some kind of niche already that differentiate them from other coaches. But on top of the niche, it's more the certification needs to evolve massively from what it is now. Instead of just the generic one size fits all, like there's only one type of doctor or only one type of lawyer or engineer, it's going to be different, that the leadership coaches would have different credentials than somebody that coaches other things that aren't leadership, like the sports or the health or the cross-cultural. Even the cross-cultural, right? Like I've worked in Bangkok in 1995, but I haven't been back to Thailand in a lot of years. I wouldn't pretend like I understand the culture there. I live in Philippines now. I lived in India. I've lived in Norway. So there's a few countries I feel relatively more comfortable. Am I super capable the way a Norwegian or an Indian would be? Even in India, it's such a diverse place. So I think the subspecialty niche, it requires different levels of expertise to really be good. And what's brilliant about, for example, health coaching that I think ICF could learn a lot from is there's a real code of ethics that I think is stronger than what ICF's used to around handing the baton as a badge of honor. If the health coach is only into nutrition and this person needs something they can't do, that they've got colleagues they're more than happy to hand the baton over to because they know they don't have the domain expertise. I don't see that same level of care in some of the MCCs I've worked with, where they think all coaching can serve every purpose forever, as opposed to my niche is I'm strong in leadership and I'm not strong in something else. And I've got colleagues that do that something else when my clients need that. So good question. Yeah, please.
May I come in here? Hi,
yeah, please.
Hi, Matt. Nice meeting you again. Can you elaborate a little bit on this cultural differences? And is there in your studies let's say, a foundation where you say, okay, these are criteria that are valid in every culture? Because I think,
Yes.
well, since we are such a intercultural group, that is certainly, for me, a very important point. What are criteria that are valid in each culture, be it Thai, be it Philippines, be it German, you name it.
Yeah, so as you know, since you're a psychologist yourself, you know that there's many studies that are weak in general and biased. They're called weird studies because they're so Western biased. However, that's not all of psychology. So for example, I'm not ignoring the point you're making. There are unknowns about what those might be in every part of coaching psychology, but the one that I know is cross-cultural universal is influence and persuasion. I've worked for 20 years with Robert Cialdini. He is the world's foremost expert on persuasion across all cultures. There are three attributes of persuasion that cultivate relationships, 2 that reduce uncertainty, 2 that motivate action. They're all completely ethical. There's really, including the anthropological literature, completely converge on these are human universals. They're not culture specific. However, to your point, Joaquin, that they might manifest different in the culture. So you may not be as proficient if you don't know how reciprocity shows up in Bangkok versus Germany, right? But the reciprocity, liking, and unity are part of relationship cultivation it's shocking to me that coaches don't know this literature because it's so central to what coaching is cultivating relationships, even if you don't want to do reducing their uncertainty or motivating them to do anything. But each one of those has things that activate and that amplify influence in a totally ethical way that all the cross-cultural literature says is valid as long as you know enough about the culture that the manifest variables, the symptomology are culturally appropriate. But I'm not going to say that about every dimension of psychology because there's too little cross-cultural psychology. That's just one that's super well built out. Does this answer your question? Okay.
You're on
You're on
mute, Joachim.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, that is answering partly my question.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I want to talk too about one other way you can differentiate yourself from the pure AI without you versus AI high touch, high tech combination is being proactive and helping your clients, especially the buyer, think more strategically about a portfolio of investments in coaching, not just a single intervention or a single client. And my favorite example of this comes out of Russia. This is a picture of Yelena Isinbayeva. She is a pole vaulter, the current world record holder, and she's beaten her own world record 24 times. 24 times. Like, think of what it took for her to beat one world record. And then she's the world record, and she beats it again and again and again. Is this not every coach's dream client? Who wouldn't love a client like this, right? And so think about the kind of deliberate, concerted practice, learning from her mistakes. Think how many mistakes she had. She had nutrition coaches, she had sports coaches, a lot of support, but she's quite a unique individual. So some people are going to treat your coaching like she did hers, but not everybody, right? In fact, it frustrated me at Infosys when many senior leaders, they wanted the coaches that worked for me, like they wanted their Lamborghini, their Rolex, or their summer home. It was a status symbol, which killed me because I'm in India. I had 10,000 people wanting to get coaching from my team, but I couldn't, the one weirdo American wasn't going to tell a billionaire, that it'd be a career shortening move for me to kick too many of them out of the coaching pool. And but proactively investing, if you can convince your client to find the folks that treat you and your coaching that are super ambitious, they're humble, they're curious, they want to reflect on the lessons they learn from practice, letting mistakes be their teachers, and they're somewhat optimistic. These are the subset of people who will treat you like a glass of ice water, and I think I saw one person in Dubai, they're in Dubai in the desert, right? That these are the types that will do better, they should do better in taking coaching seriously. And so helping clients find these folks, helping them practice, I think is another key way that you can be more strategic, more proactive than any of the AI can. Now, part of that, I hinted at this earlier, there's an incredible model. This is one of those, Joaquin, that's cross-culturally generalizable. It's been studied for 50 years. It's called the model of hierarchical complexity. All human attributes have 17 stages from infancy to Nobel Prize, and each one has steps in between them. Now, it's not well known in the coaching circles, but ideally, if you know where the client is, you'd like to focus your coaching in that sweet spot. That's not too hard or easy. Most adults are between stage, say, 7 and 14 at work. Below stage 7, typically younger, children type stuff, and above 14 is up at the paradigm shifting, Newton and Galileo and that level of stuff up at the level 17. So, but notice on the right-hand side of the screen, in black are things coaches normally do, and some are more challenging and are more difficult for a client to deal with and respond to, and others are more easy. But notice in blue, the kinds of things that many coaches in ICF don't do, or they're told they should never do. And yet the science says, why not wear a different hat if it would help the client achieve their goals. So the key though is, how do you know if you want to be like Yelena Sabayeva, how do you know where your client is on all the different dimensions that they care about? And that's really where the assessment comes in. So this is kind of the first third of my talk, and I'm going a lot slower than I expected. I can keep going later, but I want to respect your feedback, Arne, on if I'm talking slow enough. But I want to talk at least a bit about how AI can complement your high touch and what it can do for your business. And maybe I'll treat that more lightly than I otherwise would. But one of the ways is through using your Zoom transcripts as the assessment. Instead of questions and tests and questionnaires, this is the work I currently do. So some of you are familiar with assessment centers. This is where you used to send a leader through a bunch of people rating their behaviors in simulated environments like an inbox exercise. But we don't need that anymore. Just from transcripts, we can get extreme levels of precision. And because we use that model of hierarchical complexity, we can take any attribute and explain what low, medium, and high looks like. This is just it for Cialdini. I mentioned persuasion is one of those cross-cultural universals. At the bottom are people that use it unethically or only use one at a time. And at the top are people that use it as a habit and do it in a way that's super consistent to a level they become famous and people seek them out. But they're deceptively simple. So these are the kind of things where it's going to take at least 1 or 2 sessions for somebody to be fully proficient, and much more than that for them to make a habit out of it. This is a quick overview of how this works. This is the current work. I invented this originally in 2008, and I've updated it recently. But basically, at the upper left, you can see the music symbol, the video. It takes a video, an audio, a transcript. I've got prompts that are scientifically created. This is how we talk to the AI, with prompts, just in English. And I've calibrated the AI, called large language models. So each time I use the prompt to look at the transcript out of Zoom, I have a little bit more certainty about where on the ruler this sample might be, and then it stops when it has enough information. So this is what I used to call inverted computer adaptive testing, but it's so precise because there's 17 stages, 6 of each of those stages of development. Each one has 6 steps, and one of them has 4 substeps. So there's 153 levels of certainty that your coach, even if your client got a little bit better, this kind of AI can detect. And what's really helpful if you want to sell somebody on it, if you've got a client in a discovery call through Zoom, or they give you some transcripts, or they're on YouTube or in a podcast, you can get a baseline of their leadership and then show them how your coaching is improving them. Eventually, my team will also have this available with the client permission to show if they're using Zoom or Teams, you can see how they're doing in between coaching sessions as well. So you now have before, during, and even after. You can let them keep going with that assessment to see, did the coaching stick? Going back to how I started this whole conversation, what's the number one thing the buyers of coaching want? They want to see, did things have impact? Well, if you start out before coaching begins, you show them progress during coaching, and you show them long after it's over, I think that's the answer. What's useful, Teresa Mobley is a Harvard professor. She showed in a book about 9 years ago that especially early career people, they need to feel like they're making baby steps of progress. And this kind of hyper precision allows honest praise to focus your coaching in the area that's not too hard, not too easy, but just right for them. And you're able to praise them if they do make a bit of progress. So I'm going to skip through this one just because we're running slow on time. This is a real example. This is the stages of development on the left. This is a guy I used to work with. He's currently the Cognizant CEO. Cognizant is a software outsourcer in India. He worked with me when we were both at Infosys, and I know him personally. I haven't shown him this yet. But what I did in blue are his actual transcripts on charisma. This is a friend of mine is the world's expert on charisma. So this is measuring how well do they tell a story, how do they use nonverbal behaviors, how well do they use 3-part lists, talk about the moral purpose of the work. Extremely predictive of people being better leaders. Notice the variability in blue on his different examples. I was worried in his Xavier keynote that maybe he had somebody write the story, the keynote for him, or that he used ChatGPT, but notice he did terribly on it, so he must not have used any help. But in red is his competitors. So I took one sample from each of his competitors and showed him that he's down more or less with the lowest one, except for one outlier where he did really well. And I'm convinced that when I show it to him, he'll see that he'll be happy that he can rise to an occasion when he chooses to, like he did with the ET Insights, but he won't be happy that he's not consistently high, and he's still lower than Mark Benioff, the Salesforce CEO. So you can see where this is a clever way that coaches can use to make the case for companies or for clients to purchase coaching, to say, where are you versus where do you want to be? And this is just charisma versus other dimensions. This is an example. Yeah,
Matt, sorry, I could only see the blue line here.
You can't see that on the far right. There's some diamonds.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, these are general levels. Okay, I see what you mean. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for interrupting. Feedback can be very threatening to people. What's less threatening is feed forward, which means new behaviors the client can practice that are a stretch assignment for them. So in blue are their current levels this person is strong at. Target are the new behaviors they should go work on. And then at the bottom are some examples of practical next steps. So this is an example of trying to focus them on concrete actions in their Goldilocks zone, in their sweet spot, that aren't threatening. And then these are the 9 dimensions. 3 are on leading people, 3 are on leading self. I'll just comment on leading business. You might be interested. Digital orchestration is what people like Elon Musk are famous for, which is not that any of your clients need to be experts at AI, but they need to have a sense for where the constraints are in the market, in the operations, and where to focus it in a way that gives them competitive advantage. So that's one of those newer dimensions. But it doesn't have to be these dimensions. You could see any dimension could be measured with this kind of unobtrusive assessment. And that is part of what I have been doing. But there's some very interesting ones that I think are very exciting, including this flight simulator idea I told you about before. It's only really just starting. This idea of a coach digital twin, where the client can not only use your niche, your personal style, but you can see how they do it in a simulated way, and you can also measure whatever they're doing with that. So maybe they're getting better with their digital twin, and you can change it up when you're with them live next time. Nurture notes are an AI I invented in my last AI company, LeaderAmp, that are the AI can suggest, with the client's permission, to the mentor or the manager actions they could take that would be uniquely developmental to your client. So the mentor maybe they see him once a month, they can tell him a story about it. The manager maybe removes a barrier, gives them a chance to practice the new behavior. But the idea is not just you and the client, but the environment around and the support you can automate with the AI. And I think one I'm extremely excited about, I just realized this maybe a week ago, I'm calling them vicarious videos, where basically, I'll tell you what, I'll come back to this one, but basically learning vicariously from others are another way to do it. And I want to show you this. I'm hoping this audio will come through. This is a really brilliant, another former colleague of mine from Infosys. He's a World Economic Forum level salesperson who founded this company, Step Up One, when he left Infosys. I'm hoping you can hear the audio here.
You know what's fascinating?
Listen to this and we'll reflect on it.
Whether I'm in a
Can you hear the audio
500
okay?
room or a refugee camp classroom, I hear the exact same concern. Are we ready for what AI is bringing? That's where my story gets interesting. For 2 decades at Infosys, I led transformation across the Americas and Europe. I was at the intersection of business, technology, and human capital, basically helping big companies navigate massive change. But in 2019, something clicked for me. I realized I could use everything I'd learned for something bigger. So I set a crazy goal, reskill and employ 1 million underserved individuals, not someday, but with real urgency, especially youth in refugee camps and overlooked communities who have the talent but not the opportunity. Here's what makes this different. We're using AI itself as the solution, not just as a tool, but as a force multiplier for economic mobility. Through Step Up, One in Human Edge AI, we're building this new kind of workforce infrastructure that's digital, distributed, but still deeply human. The beautiful part, we're not running charity programs. We partner with global enterprises, development agencies, and impact-focused leaders to deliver actual results. Because Whether you're in a boardroom or a refugee camp, what everyone needs is the same talent that's AI literate, outcomes driven, and future ready. That's my life's work, pioneering the future of reskilling at a global scale with a clear blueprint to prepare humanity for the AI age. And honestly, we're just getting started.
So I wanted to play this for you for a couple of reasons, because I want you to reflect. He's brilliant at the high touch, high tech combo. So he's retrained these refugees all over the world that are part of Step Up One. They start with capital raise for founders, then they move into marketing and then talent acquisition. But it's all human in the loop. There's still humans. It's these refugees that use the AI to do the work. That is useful because that is a huge part of what I'm saying the future of coaching is going to be. When you're not with your client, this is a way you can monitor and even support them asynchronously when you're not together. But what's more important to me that blew me away, because I talk to this guy once a week, is how many of you realize that's purely AI built? That's not him recording himself. This is the first video for me that I was fooled by. He showed it to me. He's fooled by. So he did 5 hours of 11 labs to record his own voice. Hey Jen is the video. And so when he showed me that, I was so surprised. I could not tell that it was purely AI. That it dawned on me that part of what a coach can do is this vicarious video saying, if they want to be more charismatic, you can show them with themselves what it would look like if they told a better story at their next town hall, or what it would look like if they used 3-part lists. So it's not just some random person that they respect or whatever. It's like them, more or less, and in a style that's close to what they would have, which I thought would be that's really amazing. And it's similar to a lot of the sports psychology literature around imagery and futuristic thinking, but it's definitely part of Bandura's social cognitive theory around learning from others. Only this could be learning from yourself, kind of, with an avatar of yourself. So I'm gonna stop there. That's essentially what I prepared for today. If people want to talk to me, I realize we're kind of out of time, but I've got these are the executive coaches that I'm working with now with this kind of unobtrusive assessment, and I'm more than happy to take questions. I hope I talked slow enough, Arne, and I went a little quicker through those last slides because I didn't want to go over too much.
No worry, no worry. Thank you, Matt. Wow, yeah, a lot of stuff to digest, and thank you so much for sharing. Maybe so there's a couple of things. Maybe we can ask the audience if they want any clarifying on anything that you've mentioned.
Sure.
And shared with us. And then after that, we'll do a small poll that we've prepared, and just to know if people use AI or not. I think that could be interesting, and then go to the proper Q&A. Okay,
Great.
Is that okay?
That's great.
Okay. So folks, if you have anything that you wonder that might not be clear for you, or you want Matt to give some additional explanation about, feel free. Now is the good time to ask.
I see some hands raised. So I don't know how. Feel free to just take yourself, Bahar, if you want to take yourself off.
Yeah. Hello, guys. Thank you very much for all the information. Actually, apart from all the good information, the level of energy, that was amazing. Thank you for all the energy and good stuff. I have a question because I'm, as a software engineer, and as a coach, I use AI as a part of my practice. So I just wanted to share with you a challenge that I'm facing here regarding the information that people are telling me. And they say, and ICF also prepared a document that how well we could guarantee that these information are kept somewhere and doesn't leak and everything. But
Right.
for me as a software engineer, it's like the information is already everywhere. So I just wanted to ask you if you have any experience regarding these kind of security regarding information.
Sure.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I do. And I think, let me answer it in a couple of ways. So I run a software company, so I think about this all the time, and particularly with respect to coaches, because I think some coaches don't realize what OpenAI and Google have been doing with whatever transcripts they sent up there. But there's a couple, I think there's the practical answer for 90% of ICF coaches is organizations like Venice.ai has real encryption. They don't store anything on it. That's like the only one. If you don't want to host your own open source LLM, that's like the best option I'm recommending. Venice.ai. Venice, like the city in Italy.ai. It's Eric Voorhees is a famous founder in crypto before he made this one. It's open source. So one limitation of it is it will not be the most modern models, but you can rest assured it's very, very unlikely they'll get hacked or that, I mean, they don't even store any data. So that part, nothing's perfectly secure, as you know, in software, but that's pretty good. What's better than that, of course, you kind of have to have a bigger organization to basically have your own servers and you host your own open source LLMs. Some of them are very, very good. Some of you saw Grok just open sourced its older models. The Llama 4s are decent. The Quen, there's a bunch of good open source ones, but as you know, Bahar, as a software person, most coaches are just not going to do that. They don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the budget. So for regular coaches, I'm saying Venice.ai for pure privacy, and for the bigger company type stuff, of course, your own servers, your own infrastructure. And then my team basically does the same thing that Venice.ai is, not keep any identifying information. It's just the session-based processing, so nothing's stored. And then ultimately containerize it all, right? So it's behind the firewall of the company. But that's too much for most coaches, right? Is this answering your question, Bahar? Okay, great. Iva, I hope I pronounced your name okay.
Yep, thank you, Matt. It was very challenging for my brain to go into this research mode, but it was very interesting. I wanted to ask for a bit of clarification. If you could go maybe back to the slide where there were those, I think you had only 14 levels, and then the sixth one was in green.
Yeah, the model of hierarchical complexity from Michael Commons, that one?
Yeah, I think I wanted to ask for a bit of clarification there. Maybe not that much regarding AI, but to understand the idea there.
Sure. Let's see. I think it's this one.
Yep, this one. Yep. So at one point you mentioned that some of the I guess support steps are underused.
Yes.
I was wondering how to understand in the second table, or which are the ones that are underused, or how does the second table work? I guess that's the one.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So in my experience working with a lot of master certified coaches, especially at MCC and PCC certification, and frankly, interviewing them for this What is Coaching study, I was often surprised at how many are absolutely convinced that coaches should never, ever do the things in blue there. They should never, ever do the teaching. They should never, even if the client needs it, they shouldn't do it for whatever reason. Or they shouldn't co-perform, or they shouldn't model, or like the idea of wearing multiple hats was abhorrent to certain ones, including past presidents of ICF. Not all of them, but some of them. Whereas the stuff in black, asking open-ended, questions that are provocative, like everybody's comfortable with that. The challenging them, almost all coaches are comfortable with that. The active listening, observing, like that's all super normal for most coaches. But what's strange to me when I first encountered ICF as an applied psychologist who I've led coaching a lot, I've never dealt with the ICF until maybe 2013. So I didn't really know about what it was. I just found it, all those other kinds of coaching that I showed, the agile, the sales coaching, the cross culture, they don't have that. They're more like, well, what's the client need to get the goal done? And let's give the client whatever they need. They don't have these thou shalt never do X. So I'm hoping this answers the question. That I'm not saying all coaches are the same, but in general, most coaches in ICF think it's inappropriate to like teach ever. And yet, what if they need that? And frankly, at the more junior levels, sometimes teaching might be a more efficient way to at least get started with very, very basic skills, i.e. flipped classroom, Khan Academy. But at the highest levels, the thing is, there's no class for new paradigms, right? The thing you should all feel good about is the only way to get the highest levels of skill proficiency, the only tool in the toolbox for an organization is going to be to hire a coach. But to do that, then the coach better have domain expertise and can ask provocative questions or provide some kinds of support, even if there is no such thing as teaching at that level. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, is this answering your question?
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Good.
Okay, great. because we have a few questions very interesting questions in the chat that I'll ask you in a second. Can we just we thought we could do a poll, which apparently doesn't work, so I'll have to try to ask everyone. I just want to know if you use AI in your coaching as an assistant. And I'm kind of stuck. I'm stuck.
Hi,
Yes.
I will type the question and
Yes,
then
please do.
with the
Because
number
I'm
and
stuck
everyone. Yeah.
I'm stuck in a conversation just with you and not with the others, so that won't help.
I think there's John who's raising a hand.
John had his hand up. I'm happy to.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
because I'm using the logo so you don't see my hand so easy. And you also say, thank you for paying attention.
you.
No, so first of all, just wanted to appreciate Matt for sharing that. It's a super important topic, so I like your insight, and there's many different point of views out there, so it's important to stay in tune with what people think. So I have the pleasure of working with extremely senior executives in Singapore, all of my clients, and very challenging. And the interesting thing is that the more difficult the clients are, the easier it is to differentiate. I just want to share that in terms of what they are looking for or what they are challenged by. And this sounds so obvious, but I just want to share with everybody, I think it's very important to spend time understanding where are the clients coming from, where are they expecting, or where do they want to be in 1 or 2 years from now? Because I see too many coaches that just go for the contract to do money. Okay, and I understand that. I've been there too at the beginning.
Right.
But this is not the game anymore. The game is finding the customers with a difficult problem. So that's just something I want to share, and where I spend a lot of time and often say no to the easy stuff, because that can easily be done by AI. Number one. Number two, and maybe that's down to the survey that Anna is preparing now, but I have a model I use with all of my executives. I do, and I learned this from Marshall Goldsmith, that many of you will know. I do the stakeholder interviews. So any executive I take on board, I interview 10 key stakeholders. When I say interview, they have a phone call with me between 20 and 40 minutes where I ask them some really deep questions about my client to understand that person much better. And that is, for me, the most powerful thing, which cannot be replaced by an automated AI feedback tool or whatever tool you use in the world to have these conversations. Because, in fact, what they don't know, what I do for 20 to 40 minutes is coaching to go a little bit deeper about what do they know and what do they wish to see from my client. And that is very helpful to me. And that is areas I have picked because AI can't do that in this moment. Who knows in 2 or 10 years?
It can.
But I just want to share that, understanding the environment of our clients and being creative, how you find out, instead of just sending 5 standard questions, that's not going to make the trick. Have conversation with them. I just wanted to share with that with all of you.
No, I love, especially love the insight, John, on the difficult, wicked, and frankly, multi-quarter, multi-year problems make total sense to me. And frankly, the best coaches that I interviewed for that What is Coaching study do that. They don't have this. They're invited to the CEO's daughter's wedding. Like they're like a trusted advisor type of coach. So I love that. But let me agree with you, but just put a caveat on what you said about the interview, because I completely get the insight you're talking about, and I completely get the motivation component of like it's really you really asking a real human and getting it. I get it. However, I'm just warning the people that may not be dealing with senior executives, because that AI stuff already exists at the next level. It's just that I think a lot of people are just not they're going to ignore it. right? So it's not that
very
it
good.
couldn't do it, it's doing it already. It's been doing it. HireVue's been doing it for 10 years. So it's not that and even before ChatGPT came out, that technology exists. And unfortunately, it's screwing up the pre-hire stuff. I still think you're right that it's still powerful for you personally to get a better mental model of the client, and you're just going to more likely to get the stakeholder to respond than an AI. But be aware, AI can already do it. So for junior stuff where they're not going to pay the big bucks, that's going to, I bet Better Up and Ezra, they're all going to start doing that stuff eventually.
Yeah. No, and just, I totally agree with that, by the way. But my point was, and without sharing any confidential stuff, last week I was talking, two stakeholders were MPs in Singapore, very senior in the ministry. And they really ended the interview with saying they were so thankful talking to a real human and having a good conversation. I didn't ask for that, but people really appreciate that. And they are really super smart, super experienced, and know everything better than me. So I just think that we show up as humans and pay attention to what they say and dive into the unspoken. This is where we can still differentiate versus I call it the robots, the AI. But yeah. Okay, so sorry, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
And last comment, sorry, now you gave me the microphone. None of the seniors, none of them want to do Zoom. They all want to do face-to-face. They insist. And that's the reason why I fly back and forward between Thailand and Singapore all the time, because they just say they enjoy having that face-to-face, eye-to-eye conversation.
Let me ask John. I talked to the ICF branch in Singapore. I couldn't believe they told me that they're scared to have the conversation I just had with you because they said most of their coaches couldn't handle it. And I'm like, what, do you got to be kidding me? I've worked in Singapore plenty. How is it that so many other countries have no such issue? So you tell me, what am I missing in Singapore? Is it, I mean, it's a smaller place. Is that part of it? Because in the US, Zoom is so super mainstream for ICF coaches.
I just think because we've been so extreme during COVID, that's my belief here. People just, and particularly many of my clients have been completely extreme with home office and they really enjoy the face-to-face, but also having a really deep conversation in an environment. Two of my clients, they always go into the park in the botanical garden. They do walking coaching with me. That's what they want, and kind of be a human out there where they feel comfortable. And I'm okay, it's hot, but it's nice. But nevertheless, this is what they want, So I think we don't miss anything. It's just how they want it, and we have to listen to our clients. And I think I feel Zoom is good, and when there's urgency, I do it. But at the end of the day, I feel face-to-face with, okay, now I have a lot of experience in coaching, but I feel my best sessions are the face-to-face. I can clearly say that with more than 3,500 hours on my back.
Sure.
I can clearly confirm. Okay.
May I just add on a little on that?
Go ahead.
It's just that I feel like each type of client, especially really top, executive, or because I have opportunities in working with the top executive and down to even the C-1, -2 to the junior managers. I think each of them expected. Of course, they have coaching. They're expecting coaching service, but there's more to coaching service, and each of them expected differently. And I found that the really high level, executive level, they tended to want more than just coaching. So they want a friend. Mostly they want a friend. I don't know why they would rather. Can we just have talk and have lunch together? That was I guess, or can sometime in a session they would just, can you just be my friend for this session and listen to me and reflect for me. I think the expectation of something that extra from the service, from the coaching service, is different for each career step of the level of the career. I think so. That's why the executive tend to want something more human touch or some, I don't know what to explain, but I think that's why I understand what John was saying.
I am also agree with Cotlian and John, and what I have seen is like the human practice during the coaching. So that's why we cannot use or 100% AI, but as human, we need human, right? Connection.
No, but I really very much interested in AI, and like Matt was saying, that it's not that we look at it as it will come and replacing us, but how can we maximizing our potential
Right.
as a coach by using it, like we have like an most efficient tool, brilliant assistant to help us, and like you were saying, we have to be the one who give them order to tell them where they should be, and come, um to supporting us, and the question I think Coach Hong-yo was asking in a box, and a lot of people already, well, some was answered that they already use AI regularly, and some say sometime, but mostly the answer is not yet, but I'm exploring. So maybe what is the first step for all of us exploring? Maybe Matt, you can tell us that the first step for us who's open to AI, but what should I do? Like, the first step that will be the most benefit, and then will complementing us, and want us to move forward to second, third, and fourth step.
I think the first is what I said.
Thank you. Excuse me. Before we move on that, shall we take the photo, as I saw someone leaving our meeting. So please take the photo together. If someone's familiar to camera on, please turn on. Yeah.
Okay, shall we stop sharing then to have all the people on the...
Okay,
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yes. Okay.
Well, let me just answer. The question was, what are the first thing? I think trying that Venice.ai is a private one. It's not the top quality, but you can trust it's not going to, embarrass you with leaking out your client data and stuff like that. Learning a bit more about prompt. What does it mean to write a good prompt? It's not that hard, and there's a bunch of free resources out there. I think the second, if you want more than that, I've got a certification class you can be part of if you wish. But that goes into much more hardcore of like, what do you do with it? Much deeper than I did today on what are those 9 dimensions? How do you coach in the person's Goldilocks zone? All that kind of good stuff.
Thank you. I think that's answer to a lot of us.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Everyone, please confirm that you are not the robot, so I can take the photo. You can have some gesture, anything. Yes. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. Okay, please go on for the further questions that you like to.
So I do have a hard stop. I got another meeting, believe it or not, in 15 minutes, but I can talk to you until then.
Okay, yeah, that's what we had in mind anyway, so no problem. I think there were some questions in the chat. I'm not sure we have addressed all of them.
Yeah, I think there's how can we leverage your transcript assessment like the one you have shown for persuasion for ROI from Arthur?
That's the TrueMind Vector Lead certification and assessment that we're launching basically end of this month. That's the current work I'm doing, is that unobtrusive assessment on things. 3 of the things are for leading self, leading team, three on leading organizations. One of them was that digital orchestration I mentioned. So the part about that is required, the certification's bundled with it, is it's so important because it's so different than... How many of you use assessments already of some kind, any kind of assessment, formal? Okay, a bunch of you do, but you don't see that in multiple repeated measurements over time. So in understanding it over time, it's way more precise than you're used to, because even your best assessments will only have 4 to 9 levels. This has 153. So to understand what that is and why, and then what does it mean when your client is, and if the client is not talking about strategy, guess what? We can't really measure their full proficiency in strategy in that session. So the role of the coach, if you really want to gauge everything in the beginning, you need to make sure you got information of behavior from all those dimensions versus maybe you don't care about that. If they already know they want to work on persuasion, cool, then you're going to be talking about that and you're fine. But in the beginning, so there's a lot of nuance like that that's quite different than a traditional assessment that we want to make sure before you ever open your mouth and invite a customer to consider this, we want you to be really, really comfortable because there's three parts to all trust and all the meta-analyses on trust. There's competence, integrity, and benevolence. You've already got the integrity and benevolence, right? Benevolence, the clients know you mean well for them, or you wouldn't be a professional coach. And integrity is just following ICF ethics. The competence is what I'm trying to give you. So you have all three that they can trust, whatever question, concern they have. I have this thing I call an AI Hippocratic Oath. And any of you want, you can email me. I'll send you a free copy of my new book called Diversity Reboot. It's a much more global, cross-cultural version of diversity inclusion than what you'll see elsewhere. And the very, very last page is the AI Hippocratic Oath, which is something I'm encouraging coaches to take into the client organization and say, here's the framework about who does and doesn't get access to this stuff. It goes beyond traditional assessment stuff because there's what's in it for your client. If other people are getting these, there's benefits to them, especially if it's measuring stuff like counterproductive work behaviors. So the AI Hippocratic Oath, to make sure the psychological safety is really clear. There's things that are unique around, like what I told you about the AI privacy, that no data that we process ever goes out to OpenAI or Anthropic or any of the AI companies, right? But you have to understand that before you can tell a client, this is something that's worth us trying together type thing. So certification before the vector lead certification, before the using the tool becomes really, really important so you don't damage any relationship and the clients are comfortable with why this is good for them.
I do agree. Do you think we have one more time for one last question, Matt, or do you really have to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think another question for those early in their coaching career, just got like their ACC. What advice would you give to move toward a specialty?
Well, I think the first step is, what are you really passionate about, right? If you're really, really, because like there's no point in you becoming a specialist in something that's maybe there's a great market, but you can't stand it. So if it's not, even in leadership, right? There's like a lot of detail that I put into like our approach to charisma. So I've talked to you a lot about persuasion, which is in there, but charisma are this is the work of John Antonakis, where charismatic behaviors not only improve your client's ability to be seen as leader-like, sometimes called executive presence, but actually they've shown in experiments that improves the team performance. It predicts presidential elections around the world. So there's a huge, powerful part to it, but it turns out, so like in my last company, I had the same AI science, worse AI than I have now, but the same science. And we had a client at Facebook Meta, their fire department wanted to pitch Mark Zuckerberg on funding their drone program. So they were getting coached. And like this particular battalion chief wanted to work on charisma before he pitched it to Zuckerberg. And basically, when you heard him, when he wasn't stressed out, he was damn good. It actually didn't turn out to be charisma at all that he needed coaching on. He needed to basically manage his anxiety, right? It was stress management more than his ability to tell a story or use his nonverbals or to use three-part lists or talk about the moral purpose of why the drone program is so great for proactively, rescuing people and stuff like that. So you could see where that's another one of those. If the AI was purely charisma and it didn't know something about adjustment and neuroticism and anxiety, you could see where that's another one of those human high touch, high tech is better than just the narrow AI because you're broader than that. But I'm sorry, I lost track of why I was telling you this story. But there's a lot to know about charisma, and then if they're really good, how to help coach them better, and then reflect because there's so much more information you as a coach are going to have. Maybe they change their goal. If they've achieved their charisma goal, maybe they work on something else for the rest of the time they're with you in a way you wouldn't be able to do in a traditional coaching because you wouldn't know that they're already at their goal. These are the things we deal with in the flipped classroom. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. A lot of knowledge here and a lot of interesting insights. So, Coach Lian, should I maybe make some? Well, it would be, I think, not appropriate to say summary because I think you can't summarize what we just heard. But
Yes.
maybe I can share my impression at least, which is that, and also consistent with what I'm hearing from on the AI front in other forums. And maybe this is more like a personal opinion, actually. But I think there's so much things happening in AI, and it goes so fast. So I think it's probably not possible to learn everything, and it's probably also not a good idea to stay away from everything, right?
Right.
So what you just said earlier, just try it out, do some prompts, see how it works, and what works for you, right? Already kind of breaks the ice on AI, and that might be a first step for those that haven't touched it yet. And then, of course, if this is something one is passionate about, one can go much further. But I think once again, this is a totally personal opinion, not anything else. That one needs to use AI with wisely, right? So that it serves you and your client and not anything else, because AI is not perfect, right? So we need to be a little bit have a little bit of be a little bit critic to what's there, so that we don't lose touch with reality. All right.
Perfect. And
Thank you.
thank you. So I think it's time we'll come to the end of the session. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It's just been a really, like Arnie said, eye-opening, and I hope this would pave the way to all of us to really, thinking about starting to, harness from AI and seeing it in a different point of view. And like Arnie said, just to how can we use it to, help us and our client to be more effective. Right. Okay. And thank you, Arne, again for being such a wonderful moderator. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. So on behalf of ICF Bangkok Chapter, we really appreciate all of you joining us today. And may I remind you that please do not forget to scan the QR code for this session surveys and also for receiving 0.75 CCE and 0.75 RD units, which will be shown in a slide. Not this one. The Coach Hong Yok will be showing a slide. This one. You will get 0.75 CCE and 0.75 RD, and also for the survey. Yes.
It's the same as the link in the chat, yeah? I just want to double check because I just followed the link in the chat. It's the same, yeah?
It's the same, John, and everyone. If you couldn't scan for the QR codes, please go to the link and we will send you all of you in the emails.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So, Coach Hong Yok, would you like to announce for the next interesting event that we will have?
Yes, thank you very much, Coach Lian. We will have 2 more sessions. The one is for Thai in-team coaching, the next level coaching. And we have 2 MCC from Thailand in this session on the 5th of September. And if all of us here have the expertise in the team coaching and would like to present in our chapter, please connect to us as well. And the other session is for you to prepare the ICF exam and to reveal more about the ICF Code of Ethics and core competency on the 10th September. So see you soon in these 2 sessions. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for your presence.
you.
Matt, thank you once again so much for sharing and all this wisdom with us. And good luck with your next topic in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think
Okay.
he was mentioning something about if we want a copy of his book and we can email to him, something like that, and he will send us the copy of the some. I think someone did someone catch that?
I didn't, but I was maybe not
Maybe
listening
we'll
well
try
as
to
you
ask.
did.
I think because he say something about the diversity on
Yeah, he did
multicultural.
mention that. Yeah, he did mention
Yeah, I
that.
think he did mention it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does write him an email, and then just to keep in contact with him so that you can, share some stuff with us. So I think you're right to
Sure.
him first.
Yeah, I think that could be very, very kind of him and would be very useful to us. And then, but we all have his email, right? Or we
Shall we
can
stop
share his
shall we stop the recording maybe?
Yes, thank you
Yes.
for reminding. Okay.
Or if anyone